All right, welcome everyone to Troop Financials for the Troop Treasurer. I am Sheila Kennedy, Vice President of Member Services. With me, I have Debbie Fountain, who is a Service Unit Manager for the RDE Service Unit and my resident expert for Troop Financials anything. She's going to go over some best practices and tips on how to fill out the Troop Financials annual report and some other forms that you may or will need to include. So first of all, let's go over some of the forms and the terms that you'll need to be familiar with. The GSGLA Annual Finance Report is the report that you turn in every year. It's due to Council by June 30th, so your service unit may have a date earlier than that it is due. Bank statement refers to the monthly bank statement for your troop accounts. This form here, checking account info sheet, is something that we would like turned in every November to your service unit, and we'll show you what that looks like. The Troop Group Excel Ledger is an example of a ledger to keep track of your income and expenses. The Troop Group Disband Notice is something that you would need to fill out if your troop was disbanding this year. And the Troop Finance Spreadsheet is another option to the ledger that you may use. So those are the troop-related forms and terms that we'll be going over. Debbie, why don't you talk about the troop checklist and what they need to do?
Okay, so you're going to be submitting the annual troop finance report to the service unit treasurer or the designee by the service unit deadline. And again, that will be determined by your specific service unit. They should have already told you, but if they haven't, they will let you know. You're going to attach a copy of the most current troop bank account. So, if you're going to take the statement from May that's coming in at the beginning of June, you'd attach a copy of that statement. You're also going to attach a copy of the account ledger. So this could be anywhere from a check register that you handwrite your information in, a troop finance spreadsheet, it could be the ledger that we're going to show you, QuickBooks printout or Quicken or any kind of money program that you might use. So that we're requesting that you attach that, the entire year's ledger. If your troop is planning to disband, they must complete a financial report. So basically, if you're disbanding, but let's say you're not going to disband until August or September. September 30th is your deadline to disband for this year. You would still fill out a financial report by the deadline on June 30th. Then, when you're ready to disband, you're going to fill out your disband paperwork, and again, you're going to fill out the financial report. You're going to turn in another current bank, bank statement, and you're going to turn in another ledger. So all that whole packet's going to come in again with your disband paperwork. So another really important thing to know is that if you do disband somewhere throughout the year, you have 30 days to get your disband paperwork in and your reports along with it. Okay, so that's really important to know just in case. Next slide. This is an example of a product sales report. So when, and we'll show you the annual report that you have to fill out. And one of the things it asks you is your product sales proceeds in the income section. And in this case, this is our report that we look at as a service unit to see what your proceeds should be. So we have every troop's proceeds that's in our unit for fall and for cookie, and we're going to refer to that to see what your total proceeds should be. And that's something that you should know. Your product salesperson should be giving you what their proceeds should have been. They're going to give you a troop report, but your actual dollar amount that's going in that annual report is going to be the actual amount of deposits that you've made minus the council debit, and that should come up with at least the same or a similar proceed. So here's the annual report that you're going to be filling out, and of course you're going to fill out your membership year and the service unit you're with, your troop number. You're going to select what your troop level is, and you're going to put in all the pertinent information, your bank information, your bank account number, your signers. Now currently you're required to have 2 non-related adults as signers, but it's highly recommended that you have 3 at least. again, non-related. And that would be just to put it into a real simple explanation, if you're not needing to reimburse yourself, you can't sign that check. So you need 2 signers whenever you're writing a check. So you really need a 3rd signer. So that's that reasoning. But again, right now it's required 2, but again, highly recommended 3. So when you start this report, your beginning balance is going to be, if you're brand new, it's going to be 0. If you're brand new, true. But beyond that, it's going to be your ending balance from last year. So that's where you start. You should have a copy of your annual report from the previous year. You should keep all of your financials in your annual report. So you should be able to go back to that, know where you ended, know what date you were on, and then start. You're going to be starting a new ledger every year, so you should have been starting where you left off. If you're not sure, you're going to have to, some service units already have this information. We will definitely by next year. But for now, go back and find your annual report if you're not 100% sure. So the income section is separated by categories. And so you're going to be filling in, and we'll show you a ledger and a couple different formats that will help you to do this. If you're using a handwritten ledger or a check register, the biggest challenge you have is you don't really, you don't have them already categorized. So you're going to have to go through and add up all the income and all the expenses in each of the categories. So in this case, membership is in both. So you might be getting income where the parents are paying you for membership that you're going to actually, pay in e-biz, but then it's going to be an expense because you're going to, you're going to collect the money, put it in your bank account, and then you're going to pay the council. So that's why you have an income and an expense. It should be what they call an in and out expense, generally speaking, but it isn't always if your troop is, possibly, supporting some of your girls. So all the different categories you'll see here are based on what we're going to show you in our sample ledger. Something I really need to point out, though, is if you look in the income section, the cookies and the fall product proceeds are only in income. So what they're looking for is your bottom line. What did you actually make? So you're going to take all your deposits, you're going to subtract what the council has taken as payment, and that should be your proceeds. Now again, it should match your report or be very close, but that's the only place you're going to have to put your proceeds. So that's important to know. If you've got all your stuff logged on your ledger, if you put them in categories, appropriate categories, you should be able to do this in about 5 minutes. You should be able to fill in your starting balance. You should be able to fill in all your categories and then get the ending balance that matches your bank statement, unless you have some outstanding checks or something that haven't cleared the bank. And if you don't, then you may need some help from your service unit to help you figure out why. So here's another important thing to know. If you should have, on average, carryover about $50 per girl, at the end of the year. So we're encouraging you to spend the money that the girls make, reap their rewards. If you have a bigger balance than $50-ish per girl, then we need to know why. So if you're saving for a big trip, if there, something going on, maybe you haven't spent the money for the year because your year-end party or your trip for your cookie rewards hasn't come about yet, then go ahead and explain that to us. Just give us a little note there to tell us what's going on. So it's really important. Whoever's bringing this report needs to know what's happening. So if there's ever a disconnect, you need to talk to the leader or whoever is working with the girls on their goals and things like that. And then really important, you need signatures. Don't bring them into your service unit designee unless you have your troop leader signature and your treasurer's signature, because we're going to hand it back to you and you're going to have to go back and get the signatures. So did I miss anything?
No, I think that's great. That was perfect.
Okay,
thank you.
Great. Okay, so here's an example of an Excel ledger that has been created, and this is basically one that mirrors that annual report. So you have all the income categories and all the expense categories. And basically, using this form, you literally can do that annual report in 5 minutes. Because what it does is, as you go to the ledger section, which is, it's like 3 parts, so it actually prints in 3 pages. But you can see the rows are numbered so that you can match up the pages. The ledger, you start by filling in your transactions with the date and what type of transaction, the payee, the category, and a memo. You don't put anything in the amount column on this particular report. You're going to go to the category that transaction belongs to. So if it's troop dues, you're going to put income for troop dues in the income column. And you're just going to fill it in. And if you fill it in, you'll see if you go back to the ledger, you see how the amount automatically goes into it. So whatever it is, whether it's, you know, some kind of expenditure for the troop, or if it's family partnership or membership, whatever it is, you can fill it in based on, you know, that transaction. Now here's the one catch on this particular ledger. Remember I told you that the cookie program proceeds and the fall product proceeds are only in the income section of the annual report. So in this case, all of your transactions for cookies go into these into the income section. So if you're taking in a bunch of deposits throughout the cookie season and then the council takes its first debit, you're going to put all your deposits in as positive numbers, and then if you have a $1,500 debit in there, you're going to put a negative $1,500. Again, in the end, it's going to tell you what your bottom proceeds are. So if you put in a negative number next, if you scroll down, you'll see that it comes up with the, 750. And so that's your proceed. And all of these numbers, as you fill in the columns throughout the year, will end up in that bottom column that totals it, and you take that bottom number and just plug it right into the annual report. It's very simple. This expands to about 250 lines. It could be further, but it's a locked Excel spreadsheet, so you can't mess it up. And it's really super simple, and it's an easy way for you to keep track of your expenses. Okay, and we have the one. Okay, so now this is another example of a way to keep track. So for example, if you don't want to use that ledger, you don't want to use Quicken or QuickBooks or any of those things, and you just really like using that check register, that's fine. If you just handwrite everything, however you do it, you still have to get your categories in order to fill out the annual report. I mean, of course, the first most important thing is actually keeping track of your expenses. But if you're tracking them and it's manually written and you have your category written in your memo section of your check register, when it comes to doing the annual report, you still have to get the categories. So you can plug them in to this spreadsheet. You can do it manually by hand, or you can. It's an Excel spreadsheet, so it'll total it for you as well if you use it in Excel. So that way you can just drop your information into this, and you'll still get those same totals. Now, something that was done on this is if you want to track your expenses versus your income for your fall product, some people like to see what they've collected and then also have an expense for what they've paid to the council. This has a special section to do that. So, for those people that really like to do that, this is an option for you as well. Again, remember on that other ledger, we're telling you you're going to put in a negative number for any council debits. So, it's up to you. They're not mandatory that you have to use them, but it's definitely a best practice. They're great tools. They'll really help you get the, the annual report categories done in a very easy way.
All right, thank
Anything
you so
else
much.
Okay.
No, that is it. If you have any questions while we are in transition, I recommend that you email volunteer@girlscoutsla.org and we will get back to you. Otherwise, go to your service unit treasurer with questions. The better you keep your records throughout the year, the easier the annual report will be. Thank you so much, Debbie, and that is it for us.